Thank you so much for coming to this July edition of our monthly webinars. This month will be Microsoft Projects Tips and Tricks 2017. Just 5 seconds about Trusted IT Group. We are a gold Microsoft PPM partner that specializes in thought leadership, doing presentations like this at PMI chapters and with Microsoft events all over the country and internationally as well. We provide project portfolio management advisory for implementation of solutions, configurations, and enhancements. And we also have our managed services for application support. There's phone support, email support, remote and on-site support, and training as well. One thing that I would just like to mention that we are currently in Q3 this year. We are doing a 2017 benchmarking project and portfolio risk management survey. What we hope to do is have this really quick 60-second survey to the project and portfolio management community. And what we're going to do is produce a report analyzing all the responses on where organizations are right now as far as their risk management practices. So please take a second, look into the chat box. You'll see a link there. 60 seconds, and you could just answer the question. It's all anonymous, and all your help will really assist us in getting a good sampling. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to kick this over to Ellen, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Hello, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ellen Lehnert. I'm a Microsoft Project MVP. I'm also a PMP and a Microsoft certified professional. I have been working with and teaching and consulting with Microsoft Project for over 15 years. I have taught this class over 400 times. I'm the author of a couple of curriculums, lots of articles. I am the lead writer for the Microsoft Project certification test for Microsoft Project 10, 13, and 16. And I, of course, have the certifications on all of that. And I tech edit some reference books and a few other things. So with all that, what I'd like to talk about today is first I want to tell you about the customized ribbon bar that will be available to you at the end of this presentation. We're also going to get into how calendars are really supposed to be used. After all this time of teaching all these classes, I find out people do not really understand the design of calendars and how they should be used, and in what cases should you even have a second project scheduled to help you manage your projects. We're also going to talk about the baseline and how that is also intended to be used, and I want to show you a few little things that might help you in managing your projects. Then I'm going to talk about, I want to show you some views that you can actually figure out what's occurring in projects next week. Maybe we can combine some projects together and you can see what's occurring next week across multiple projects. But we can go one step further and say, well, what about for resource groups? We can also get this same information, or much of the same information, using the network diagram, but we have to create a custom grouping to allow us to do that, and I'd like to show you that as well. One of the features of project that is not used a lot, but I think there's a lot of value in it, is when management or your stakeholders for your projects are saying, well, what progress have you done in the last month, or whatever the time frame is. This, there is a actual feature within the product called Compare Projects, and I'd like to show you what that looks like. A lot of people have problems printing notes. What most people are not aware of is within the software itself, the notes in the database are actually located in two locations. Most of your note printing happens out of the first shorter location, but if you have additional notes, how can you get those? And that's what I want to show you. I want to show you real couple of quick tricks about reassigning resources. And I know it wasn't originally advertised, but there's a wonderful new feature that was added to the timeline view for 2016 and Project Online, and I would like to show you those as well. As Dan mentioned, please feel free along the way to type some questions, and I will be taking all those questions at the end. So what I want you to know before I start, though, is you don't have to be writing and taking notes like crazy. I want you to watch what I'm doing. Send us an email at the end. I'll give you those addresses, and we will send you this customized ribbon bar that I'm about to show you. But not only that, you'll get all the keystrokes written out in a document so you don't have to be noting all of these. Many of these things that I'll be showing you will not just apply to 16 and Project Online, but they're also available in 13 and Project 10. Lower versions than that, some of it's available, but not all of it. So what I would like to start out with is, first I'd like to talk about the calendar. This is actually the way calendars work. You need to assign your calendar to the project calendar before you put in your first task. There's actually some calculations that are happening in the background as soon as you start entering any tasks. It takes information not only off of the calendar, but the calendar options. If you change the project calendar and the project calendar options later, you're going to get some results you might not want. So we have three kinds of calendars. We do have the project calendar. We have a resource calendar, so that would apply to the individual resources. And then we have task calendars that has the ability to override everything. This is the rule you need to be aware of, that all tasks are scheduled based on the project calendar until a resource is assigned to the task and is actually made the assignment itself. Then the resource calendar will take over scheduling that task. Everything can be overridden using a task calendar. A task calendar is intended for an individual task. I see people's schedules all the time where they've got a calendar assigned to every task. And this is doing a constant override in the background, putting a lot of extra overhead in the project, which is actually, well, it could be detrimental to the project itself. So I want to first start out with that we have an area called Change Working Time. This is where you can create or adjust or update any calendars and gives you a pool of calendars to draw from. Any calendar can be used for a project, for a resource, or for a task calendar. It does not matter. So this is a list of calendars that are actually stored in the global, and you're also seeing one is really created for every resource that I have. So the ones that come stored in the global when your software is installed is 24 night shift standard. And by the way, there is no value in going ahead and changing the, creating another copy of this and maybe making it my company calendar, and actually it's detrimental, and I will show you why in just a minute. Microsoft went ahead and stole some code from Outlook and now allows us to, I know some of you are not from the U.S., but this is a U.S. holiday called Labor Day. I can come in, and this is the part they stole out of Outlook, is that we can reoccur a holiday, this one on the first Monday in September, and I can reoccur it for multiple years. And I can go through my schedule and actually do that. I'm going to say OK on this. All right. When I create the calendar, I would come over here, and this is where I tell the project what calendar we will be using. Then when you go ahead and put your resources in, by default, and this is a newer feature, I think it came in 13, that whatever your project calendar is, when you go ahead and assign a new resource, it will automatically pick up a copy of that project calendar and assign it to that new resource. Now, what does happen is, in part of what I was saying with the rules, is this is a task that is the project's being scheduled based on that task. When I assign the resource to it, if they have time off, that task will actually move to where the resource is available to do the work. What we also need to consider is, what about those weekend or special time frame tasks? We have maybe tasks that have to occur at night, or they have to occur on a weekend, or they have to occur, maybe there is a certain blockout time within a project. All of these can be handled with calendars, and maybe even task calendars, depending on how you want to work this. One calendar that I think you would use a lot is, and most of my clients have one, is a calendar I like to call Weekend. And what we do in that is I come in and I adjust the calendar to say that Saturday and Sunday are actually my working days. And this is the only place I can use military time, by the way. And now I'm going to make this non-working during the week. So I flip the calendar around, and now I will take a look at this in days. I'm going to move this over. You can see this 2-day task is occurring in the middle of the week. If I double-click and go to the Advanced tab, I can put that one on the weekend, but I must click this to say I want to override the resource calendar because I want the resource to work that weekend. And now that task will always occur on the weekend. If I increase the duration here, can you see how that task jumps to the next weekend? Because that's the only working time I've made for it. One more thing I want to say about this calendar is, let's say I've created this weekend calendar. I really like it. I would like to use it in my future projects. I would go to File, Info, Organizer, Calendars, and I copy it from the calendar project I created it in, hit the copy. I've now put it in my global, and any project that I would open in the future, that weekend calendar would be available to me. So there's a lot of information I just went through quickly, but the most important thing you need to take away from this is that tasks are always scheduled based on the project calendar until a resource is assigned to the task. The resource availability then will take over the scheduling of that task. And if you want to have a unique time frame itself, you create a task calendar and apply that at the individual task level. There is no reason to assign a calendar to every task in the software, which I have seen people do. Okay, let's go on to the next one, which is comparing the running baseline to the original schedule. I wanted to clear up some questions and misnomers that I feel people have about baseline. So let's first review all the fields that baseline actually is affecting. When you're planning your project, what you are actually doing is you are planning the start, finish, work duration, and cost fields. This is all you're actually adjusting right there. This, that's the name of the fields, but they might as well be called planned start, planned finish, planned work, etc. When you set a baseline, what you're doing is copying these fields into these fields, which is the same fields with the word baseline in front. There are actually 11 baselines in the software, but the only active baseline, the only set of fields where the variance is being calculated, which is the difference between my plan that's running forward and what I thought I was going to do, which was my baseline. This is the only set of fields the comparison is occurring to. I see people think when they want to update the baseline, they copy it into baseline 1. No, it's a documented copy of the baseline. That's all it is. You're using it just as a free use field for future documentation. It does nothing to really update the baseline. So let's say your project starts and you put your work out there and people go ahead and do the work and they come back and they tell you what they did. That's known as tracking. But it's also known as the actual values. And you will, during the tracking process, when you enter what really happened, that goes into these actual fields. Then, based on whatever frequency you'd like, and I will say most people do this weekly, they set a status date to say, this is my line in the sand. They reschedule uncompleted work. These plan fields actually move out, and it's compared against the baseline fields, and now I get a comparison of how am I doing off of baseline. That's that variance. So let me just run through this again. When you plan your project, these are the fields that are being updated. When you save a baseline, save off the original schedule, they go into these fields. Then you put the work out there, people tell you what they did, that's called the actual, what really happened. You update them to these fields. You will then reschedule uncompleted work based on a status state. Your plan fields move out, and you get to find out how far off of plan am I, and it's a comparison of these two columns. So let me go back into project now, and I'm going to do a little demo on this. The first thing I want you to know is that you've done with planning. You really need to get into a view called, let me get it from here, the tracking Gantt. This is now formatted for baselining and for tracking. So I have gone to this tracking Gantt view. Now I want to set a baseline. I will go to Project, Set Baseline, and these are the 11 baselines you have available. Baseline 1 through 10 is documentation only. When you set a baseline, this not only affects the task data, but it will also affect the resource and the assignment data as well. There are some 120 fields, all dedicated to baseline, but we are only using a small piece of that. So you can save off baselines into these other ones, but keep in mind it's for documentation only, or if you're doing earned value. Another thing I think a lot of people are a little confused at is that baseline is actually a per task value. So I could select a range of tasks, a single task, and update the baseline for that one task. I don't have to update the entire baseline. I'm going to click OK, and now my baseline has been updated. But here's a little tip I like to tell people. I'd like you to come back when you decide to set your baseline and automatically set it into baseline 1 as well. This is an extra copy, an extra documentation, but not only that, it's what I like to call the original. It's a value that will never change, because that original baseline is where you're going to enter all the changes in your baseline. Okay, so let's say I'm starting to run my project. And, like right at this point, we decide that we're going to insert a new task. And this new task is going to be a lot of work, and it's going to impact my ending date of my project. In fact, this new task is 15 days long. But the client that is doing this is saying, yes, you know what, I'm accepting that change, and I'm accepting the update and the change to the baseline. I'm going to put the task in there. I'm going to select the first task. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. And I'm going to hit Shift. I've selected that range of tasks. I'm going Set Baseline, and I'm going to do the selected tasks only. I'm going to make sure my subtotals are correct, and I'm going to update that back to the baseline. Remember the original baseline field, not any of the numbers. Okay. Now the reason I did that is because the first task was okay. I didn't want to change what was happening there. But let's say I want to now compare my original baseline to my current running baseline that's been updated. I'll click Get My List of all my views. I'm going to go to More Views, and there's a view in here actually called the Multiple Baseline Gantt. And when I apply that, I am now seeing here's what we originally started with, and this is the original plus any changes. So as your project goes along, when people are saying, well, why is this running late? You're able to come in and say, hey, this is where we started, and these were the changes that were made along the way, and actually show this comparison. So I think that's a really, really nice thing to do in your project, and as you're managing your project, I think it's always valuable, and particularly for lessons learned, to know where you started within that project. Let's go back to this now. What's occurring next week, and what's occurring by week for the network diagram, or using that to display that information. So first thing I want to show you is here's my resource sheet. There's a lot of value to this group. When you make an assignment, there's only 5 fields that are populated on the task area or accessible through tasks from the resource side when you create an assignment. Group is 1. From the task side, it's called resource group. Let's see, Dan, I'm going to make you a PM also. Okay, there you go. So I assign these. This is one of the fields that's picked up. And then I'm able to come back and say, you use this as a grouping or a filter. I want to see all tasks being performed by the development department, or all tasks being performed by project managers, etc., etc. So I'll come back over here. What we do is we insert the column called resource group right there. And then I'm able to go ahead and just select an individual group. On this, the special toolbars and quick access bar that I gave you, there's a button here to clear your filters. So there it is. But this is one of my favorite things to do, is to come in and to group it down by weeks, and then I go ahead and filter it by a specific resource group. And I get to see this way what work is being done by the resource groups within time frames, and then when I go to that department to talk to those people, I have all the information with that project in one place. So again, up on my customized ribbon bar, I've got a button called Clear Group, and I'm right back to where I started from. You can get this same kind of information on that network diagram, but I want you to know that the groupings, the way to get to a week grouping is not available from this pull-down list or even from my more groups. So to give me that grouping, I'm going to go to more groups, and I have to create a custom grouping. And I always like to have one that I call by week. And I should base this either off of start or finish date. Of course, I can, maybe I'd prefer green or something. I can change my color, but I need to define my group interval. And my group interval will be weeks, and I want it to be every week starting today. So I'll say OK, I'll say save, and now I'm going to say apply. And so now I have this network diagram where I have all my tasks grouped by week. So when I look at, I can then go ahead if I wanted to and filter this down by resource, or there is an option to go ahead, I believe, and filter it down by resource group. We can just do resource. That would work, and I can get that. I'm going to put my by week back up there, and let's try a filter based on a specific resource. Maybe, let's see what Mike is up to. And now I can see all of Mike's work broken down by week, and there it is that I could go ahead and print on a plotter or whatever I wanted. But I think this is invaluable if I want to go to the department and say, let's walk through what is your part of this project. So there's, we're setting expectations. We're making sure that they understand everything that you need them to understand about the project that they're working on. Let me clear all this. I'll get back to over here, and we're ready to roll on that. So that's one of my favorite ones to go ahead and do. I have a lot of people using that. I have a lot of clients who tell me that one of the reporting requirements that they have is that they're always asked what progress happened within the last time period. It might be a month, it might be a couple of weeks, but they want to know, well, where were you last week, last month, and what did you actually produce by the end of this month? So there is something, and I will tell you it's in the software probably since 2000, if not earlier, that it's actually called Compare Projects. So I'd like to show you what this looks like. I need to open, let me start with that when you go ahead and do this, you need to save off a copy, let's say at the end of every month. So what I did is, let's say I took a file and I said, all right, here's all the work we did up till the end of July, and I saved that off and I called it July 2017. And then my expectation is I'm going to run the month of August, and I'm going to save it off at the end of August. So this one is actually August 17. So I'm taking the later one of the two, and I'm going to go to Report. And if you're in Project 2010, it's on the Project bar. It's not on the Report bar. I'm going to click Compare Projects. And now I have to go find the other project I want to compare it to. So it's comparing the current open project that's here with an earlier one. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my browse. And I'm going to go to July and click Open. And then what table do I want to compare that on? And I'll compare it on the entry table. And I'll click OK. And now it's going to go through several steps here to get to where we'd like to be. And just so we could view this a little bit easier, I'm going to close that down. What I want you to know is there's a legend over here that tells me everything that's going on. But I can actually see, where is it? All right, let me do this. Can you see where that's a new task that's actually been added? Okay, and that's what the plus sign means. I can see our current duration and the previous duration, and you can compare times that occurred. You're able to figure out or see from this what was actually done and not done. Here's the duration difference, the status between the dates, start date difference, finish date difference, where the resources changed. I changed resources right here, so that should stick out. What you're looking at underneath here is the two files that you're comparing, so it's easy to go down there and see things very, very quickly. I think there's a lot of good information here. There is the Gantt chart that it's also showing, and you're able to see any differences that occurred based on progress that was actually happening. And you should be able to get an explanation. There's a task current. This is the task previous. I think there's a lot of value here. And if you're ever asked for this, and I think there's information you probably can add to your maybe a monthly or whatever your frequency status reports are. I encourage you to delve into this a little further if you're interested in it. There was another one here that I put in. This is a task that's been deleted in one of them. So you can actually see that kind of thing as well. Okay, let's go back to, printing the notes. And I'm going to apologize to forget what file I put a whole bunch of notes into. Okay, let me do this. If I have a note in a file, what happens is this information that you put it in is limited to 255 characters. That's all that's in there is 255 characters. If I put more than that, the extra information goes into an overflow area that can go up to 65,000 characters. One thing I strongly do not recommend, and this comes back to something I always say, which is just because the software lets you do it, it might not be the smartest thing to do. This will allow you to put in pictures. It will allow you to put in charts and everything else. I'm going to strongly recommend that you don't do this. What I do recommend is here in your notes area, go ahead and put in maybe links to things. I think this is a very good place that you could put in some links. They're not tied to disk values, which is what you would see in the hyperlink column. So you could easily jump to documents. You could put in a link to a SharePoint document within here. So I recommend that. But let's say that you want to go ahead and let me take one more quick look. Is that where it was? No. Okay. Let's say you want to go ahead and print a note that's a very long note. So let's go ahead and try this. If I insert the note column, there's a couple things you need to know about this. Well, here, let's do this real quickly. Just get some data out here. Doesn't matter what it is. Okay. The thing is, I've exceeded my 255. You see, I get ellipses there. What you're not seeing is the rest of the note. There's other things that are going on. For example, by default, this column does not word wrap. The only column that really words wrap is the task name column. So if I want to make this column word wrap, I need to get to the define of the table to be able to word wrap that column. So I'm going to right click, I'm on the entry table, and by the way, because I word wrap the notes column in one table doesn't mean it's going to wrap it in another table. I have to do this per table. So I'll go to edit, and I want you to note that see where it says text wrapping? You have to flip that to yes, and that refers to this table only. Let's see if I can get the rest of the data. That might not have been really good data put in. Okay, let me try something really quick, guys. Sorry about this. That's not going to work. All right. Oh, there you can see that, but it still cuts it off. It's not going to give you the whole thing. So what happens in 10 and 13? 10 still has the report section that you can print out the entire contents of notes. But once you hit 13 and up, the only way you can get the entire content of notes is when I hit print preview. I'm going to go to page setup. I go to view, and I have to click this one that says print the notes. And it will always print the notes on a separate piece of paper with a tying back with the task number and the task name. So when I hit that, what I got was there, and that is the entire content of notes. I really would not recommend pasting into that notes field. Some people like to put in all the requirements and the scope and status notes and all this kind of stuff. I don't recommend it. Particularly one picture can blow your file up about 1 million bytes because of the format of it. Let this be the note it's intended to be, which is something short, okay? And 255 should be your limit on it. This is just kind of a fun one to do. Let's say I've got resources that are assigned to one task, and maybe that resource is overbooked, and I'd like to assign them to another task, and I want to do it kind of quickly. So I'm going to go to my resource usage view. Personally, I really like to show this at the week level. So remember, whatever you're selecting on the time scale is the bottom value up here. So let's take a look at Fran over here. She is actually double booked, and we have 2 tasks that she's assigned to. And as management, I've made the decision that she's better at developing code, and I can find somebody else to do the testing. And let's say this person, Kathy, above, she's got the time and the skill to do that. I can do this 2 ways. First, I'm going to right-click on it, and, okay, hold on. All right, let's just do it this way. I'm going to take it, left-click and hold, and drag it up here, and now it's reassigned to the other resource, and it's solved the problem on Fran's overassignment. So let me do that again. It's really kind of a neat thing. I'm going to go to the column on the far left. I have to get this 4-way arrow, left click and hold, and just drag it to the other person. Now I want to show you one more way you can do this. I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to go, now this is for the professional version only. I'm going to go to the Team Planner view. And this is swim lanes, for those of you who haven't seen it. And I've got the same problem here on Fran. I can right-click on this, and I can reassign it to whoever I would like to reassign it to. Basically, you have to have permission, of course. But I'm going to, in this case, reassign it to Kathy. I could do that, and it just pushes it right up there for her. Or I could drag it, and I want to make I should really keep it within the same time frame. Now in Project 2010, you get a constraint on that task when you do it, but on Project 13, they kind of fix that problem, and it's no longer setting a constraint on the task when you do something along that line. One more quick thing I'd like to show you, just because I think it's pretty cool, is the new feature that was updated to the timeline view just within the last couple of weeks. This is only available on Project Online and on Project 16 desktop. So when I create a timeline view, my best bet is to have it summary tasks and milestones only. So I'm first going to filter by that. What I want you to see is I have some completed work in here. So now I'm going to just select everything, right-click, add it to the timeline, and this is the part that was really nice. Any section that's done, let me see if I can't, oops, just sort of move this over a bit. There you go. I need to be honest and tell you guys I did play with the colors on this. If you don't play with the colors, everything turns out to be this light blue and it's a little washed out. You need some colors in it. But you see where the scope down here is completed, now it has a check mark on it, and it's a darker version of the color. And this one is completed also with a check mark on the front. And this one is partially done, it's in progress, and you can actually see the progress on it. Where this is my entire project I'm looking at, and now I can see the progress to a certain point. This was really a nice feature that they put on there for us, and I'm glad to see this latest update to this view. So let me just talk for a minute about the ribbon bar, and then I will see if Dan has any questions for us. So what I did is I created the most frequently used buttons. Usually, well, what happened back when we had ribbon bars is it usually took 2 and 3 clicks to get to something. Microsoft improved it. It's now up to 5 clicks. So part of their standard was no button should be on any toolbar more than once. So I created this frequently used buttons toolbar, and these are the buttons I feel you use the most. There's even buttons on here that you won't see on any of the existing toolbars, like split view, and here's remove split. If you go ahead and apply, let's say, a filter, I've given you a button called clear filter. Some of you saw, and many of you have requested this toolbar, a ribbon bar. So from the first one I developed, I updated this one to add even more really good buttons, particularly on this quick access bar. This is now where you can access all of your views. So instead of always having to go back to task, Gantt chart, there's all my views, I could just get it right from here. Of course, this can also be customized. I can get right to my resources. I'm going to go back to my Gantt chart. I want the timeline view. I don't want the timeline view. I need to move the project, set a new start date. I've got that here now. And there's a few other buttons that were added in there as well. This can be imported into Project 10, 13, 16. Project Online does not matter, will not interfere with Project Server. It was all designed to do this, but it is something that needs to be imported. So the way you do this is you come in and you go File, Options, Customize Ribbon, Import. You have to then go find where the file is, and then you just say OK, and it comes right in. So what I would like to give you now is, and I'll leave this up for a little bit, if you write to either myself or to info at Trusted IT Group, who is the host of this webinar, we will make sure that you not only get a copy of the customized ribbon, the instructions to install the ribbon, and then the keystrokes from this presentation for today. So, Dan, you got any questions out there?
We did get a couple.
Okay.
Yeah. So I also want to thank you, Ellen. I think that was a great presentation. And Also, if anybody's looking for some sort of demo for a project online, you can go ahead and write to info@trustitgroup.com. We'll be more than happy to set that up as well. Okay, so first question that we had that came in was let's see. How can Microsoft Project help us monitor progress with an S-curve?
Okay, SCurves, as most people might consider SCurves, are really not part of Microsoft Project. I'm going to open a file. These are just some files I use for demos and during my classes. Your dashboard reports. This burn down is sort of close to what you can get, but most people, when they want to do an S-curve, they export the columns they want to be calculating it on out to Excel, and they're calculating it over there. However, I want you to know that in 2013, they put in these dashboard reports, and these are really wonderful reports. You can customize them, make them anything you want. These are the burn down of how much work's being burned down, how much number of tasks being burned down in the project, based on whether, compared to baseline. All of the calculation capability that you see in Excel has been accessed now by project. So you just have to be a little creative, and you can put in custom fields in this. You use the standard fields. I very strongly recommend that you start looking at some of the other ones that are in here. But I do want you to know the way, starting in 13, for these type of reports, the way you create that work breakdown structure ties to how the reports come out. I'm going to click on this, and I want you to see that this report is based on level 1 of the work breakdown structure. So when you've created your work breakdown structure, if you have a bunch of milestones at level 1, they're going to be included in this report, unless you create a filter to get them out of that report. You need to be more diligent as to a structure of how you're building that work breakdown structure based on deliverables. And then in doing that, you're able to access these reports. But getting back to the S-curve question, I have never seen any calculations pre-put together for S-curve calculations within Project. I'm going to put this back up here. Dan, did you say there was another one?
Yes, there was a few more. Okay, there was another question. Let's see, there's another question that came in wanting to know if now this is going back to the timeline view.mpp file that you had.
Okay.
The question was, and I think that's at MPP, and if I'm not, please help me out. Wants to know, can you show how you identified Fran having a resource issue before you reassigned her task?
Okay. To be honest, that's not the timeline view one, but that's okay. What I did is let's say I want to know somebody that's overbooked, that I booked them to more work than their resource calendar allows. So this is a button that'll send me right to my resource sheet. You can see Fran has been resolved. Anybody who has been booked to more work, they turn red here. So the easiest thing to do, and I'll pick on Mike here, is I select him. And then I want to show you one of the best views to view what's going on. Probably the easiest one is to go to resource usage, and because I've clicked on Mike will be there. If I do this at the week level, because it's just too much detail, I can actually see, and I want to explain what that's doing. I can actually see anybody who is overbooked. There's a good one. Ed is double booked at that point. There might be the question of, wait a minute, if they have 40 hours of availability in a week and this is showing overbooked, it's because on whatever day they are booked to work, all that work falls on one day. So it exceeds, or there's some of the same hours of the day that are actually double booked. And I would see those by, zooming into the day level. What I like about this view is when I do see something red, all I do is drop down and it tells me what he's doing. There are other views, like here's what's going on with Joan here. I'm just going to tell you Jim's got some issues. So what I have to do, and what I like about this view, is I get to make the decision of setting the priorities. Should I let Jim do this, or should I let Jim do that? Or if Jim's the only person who can do this, can I delay one of the tasks so he can do both of them? But then I might have a potential of that could make the project last longer. So that's when I'm hoping to find maybe another resource, and then I can just give it to somebody else and get that other person done and bring my project back in line. And, it's still the same amount of hours of work. It's just different workers doing it. So this is a good view to go to. I really recommend this resource usage. First step, though, is to go to the resource sheet and investigate why are people in red, which means overbooked. Okay, Dan?
Okay, let's go on to another one.
I'll put this back just for the moment. Okay.
There was a question on Project Online about the resource leveling, if it could be done on a week-by-week basis, and the answer is yes for that one.
I want to stop you, though, because if the resources on your project are also resources on other projects, you cannot open other people's projects and level the resources. So you have to be really, really careful on that. If you're using Project Server and the resources are coming out of an enterprise resource pool, you're only leveling your one project. You're not affecting the other projects. So you're going to have to get in contact with the other project managers.
Perfect, thank you. Another question came in that says, does the timeline view show % complete?
No, it does not. If I had my brother, I would have added that. All they decided to add was the difference of the coloring. You don't have the ability to add that. I'm going to click in the timeline view, and then I'm going to go to format up here. You can affect some things. Now, I want you to know I'm on project 16. So I can add a date line. I can add task dates like this. I can go ahead and maybe change the format under them. I can put a time scale above this if I wanted to. With 16, and I need a little bit more room here, I can add now this is 16 and online only, I can add another time bar underneath, and then I can move things from one time bar to the next, and essentially be able to show this is, phase 1 versus phase 2 of the project. I can even move the milestones from one to the other. So this is not a problem. I believe you can have up to 10 of these parallel bars. This is a very nice feature, though. I can pull this down and easily put check marks next to what tasks I would like to add to the timeline or pull away from the timeline. Like, I feel I've got way too many milestones. I can go ahead and click a few of them off and clean that up a little bit. I can also move things around. So I'm really sorry. You're going to get a 0% or 100%, which is represented by this check mark, and then this is showing the progress. As you can see, I can see that this is 72% complete, but it does not print on within the bar itself.
Thanks, Ellen. And I'm just going to read off some of these questions, and they're just going to be in, the order in which they came in, and we had a couple more. So I just want to give everyone a chance to get their question answered. Another question that came in that said, how is status progress determined on the timeline?
Where this is coming from is if I looked at a summary task here, I'm going to insert the column called %. Oops. Sorry about that. Let's try that one more time. Let's just take this. Do you see this 72% complete? Do you see where that's 72% complete? It is coming off of the summary task for that group. So that's 100, that's 100, that's 72. So that's where it's coming from, the summary task, % complete.
Thank you. I'll get to the next one. This is a continuation of the resource leveling question. There's a question that came in that said, is there any way to resource level in more than one project at the same time?
Sure. If I go ahead and, all right, I'm going to be honest here, guys. I got multiple copies of the same project. So the problem is that I need to go ahead and have the project know that the resources are the same people. So the only way I can do that is there's only two ways. There's one is I can use a shared resource pool. I can do that on the desktop. I'm setting out a server. I saw one client years ago open 15 projects using shared resources, level across the 15 project, change the end date to every single one of them, and put them all back in the server. I just believe it doesn't work that well. I also want you to know when you start having the software level your resources, it doesn't know what tasks are ready to go. It doesn't know who these people are. I think you're trying to take the decision of what task should run next out of, you can't let the software make that decision. You need people to make that decision. But I want to show you a little thing you could do about combining a couple of projects together and level the resources across those projects, because it's going to be a temporary situation, but it's combining the projects together without a link back to the original project, so you will not be updating it to the original project, but it is a really good way to do a what-if situation. So I'm going to, if you don't mind to do this, I need to close a few files first. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just create a blank, and I'm going to have to save this. So I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to stick this back on my desktop in my Tips and Trick folder here. And I like to call this, we'll just call this the Combined Project. Didn't know that was on. All right. So I've got this combined file now. All right. So into this file, I'm going to go ahead, and by the way, I do have a button right here for this, that I'm inserting a sub-project. And we're going to go ahead and insert, let's say, baseline. These are all the same file, just a little bit different. But do you see where this says link to project? I'm going to kill that link. So what I'm doing is making a point-in-time project. Okay. Oops. All right. Then I'm going to go ahead and insert, oops, I want you to see that in this thing I've got these 8 resources, and just by first name. If I had combined them with a link, what would have occurred was my resources would not combine. Inserting them together without a link, they will combine. So I'm going to put in a second one, let's see, the calendar one, and turn off the link. And again, I'm doing that. Now, when I open this is the copies of the same projects, all right? But when I go ahead now and look at that resource sheet, I have got all the same names together. So Bob is really Bob in both projects. When I go ahead and go to that resource usage view, I can see here's Bob determine project scope, here's Bob determine project scope. So I have got all the work from both of his projects combined together. This only works when your resource names are spelled exactly the same. So I do think if you want to do any of this, that's a consistency that you need to develop. Look at what's going on with Mike. He's actually got work out of both projects. So now if I wanted to, I could come back over to resource and I could level my projects. And I can see how long it would take, but I need to do this first so we can see what's going on here. So my combined projects, the first one is going to end on March 6, 2018. I'm going to close that for a minute, and the second one's going to end on January 2nd, 2018. So I'm going to open this one, and now I'll come in and I'm going to level my resources. I'm going to do it on a week-by-week basis. It's more reasonable. I'm going to do the entire thing. Standard just really means the order of these numbers, so it's going to be maybe in a date order. I want you to know this is the worst option you can do, is level only within available slack. Because that means don't move any of my ending dates or anything. And if you have a critical project and people grossly overbooked, you have no slack. So it's not going to do anything. And for that reason, some people don't really like this function. I'm just going to leave the rest of the defaults in there. I want you to know I'll click it, level, but I want you to know you can clear it anytime. So I'm going to say level all, and this moved out. Maybe that one moved out, but I want to show you the results of it. So give me just 1 second here. And nope, that didn't move out. So let's see what happened. Everybody still seems to be overbooked here. We're going to go to a special view called the resource allocation view. There it is. And I can say apply. And in here I get to see what was the result of the leveling by individual. So sometimes they can't move anything, and that's what it looks like on Bob. Mike, did we get any movement going on there? Yeah, we got some of this. You can see that there was some delay that was put in. What it is the gold bar is what it used to be, and the blue bar is where it moved it to. So you're actually able to see changes. This is a change it put in. It put in a delay on that one, but it still was not able to achieve it because there was just too much going on. So I do want you to know if you combine projects without a link, and then go ahead and keep your resource names the same, this creates a temporary point-in-time file. You can resource level over the files. Your actual restriction is 99 files, but I wouldn't do that. Most I ever heard was 33, and the changes will not go back to the original file that the resources came from. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thanks, Ellen. How are you doing on time? Do you have a couple more minutes?
I'm fine.
Okay. So we're going to keep running on this webinar until we get all these questions out of the way, and we still have 77 over here. So thanks for hanging out with
Oh my
us.
God.
We still have a full room over here. Okay. Next we have, let's see, there's another question that said, back to the timeline view. On the timeline view, when you mouse over the colored segment, a percent to complete does appear in the mouse node. I think that comment was just commenting when you were talking about the percent to complete.
Right. On 16 only, by the way.
Okay.
16 in Project Online only. They did not put that update into 13.
There was another question that came after the one I just read, said, let's see, that this individual is faced with a lot of vacations, with a lot of resources that are going on vacations. How do you input correctly the tasks per resources, and to be sure that there's no overlapping, just to make sure that nothing overlaps with the resourcing, with the resources that take vacations?
Well, what I would do first is start getting from everybody what are the vacations that they're taking. You know, the actual dates of their vacation is what I'm referring to. So then your task types actually enter a lot into this, and most people are not aware of that. So if you don't mind, I'd like to do a little demo on this. So I'm going to go to tasks that aren't completed here. So let's just try this one for an example. When I make an assignment, I'm going to do it from the work table of the task sheet here. So Kathy and Ed are working, or Kathy and Mike are working on this task. I'm going to double click on Kathy. Kathy is starting this task, it looks like, the week before Labor Day. So I'm going to come in here, and let's say if Kathy wants to take off the week before Labor Day, I'm going to say that this is her vacation. All right? Now, that task will be changed. She'll start it before she leaves, but the task is actually taking longer. I'm going to right-click on the bottom and look at the schedule. I can see that Kathy's going to work on this September 1st through 11th, and Mike is working on it August 28th through September 5th. One decision I think you need to make is if somebody is on a task with other people, can these people do their work separately, or do they have to do their work together? Now, when I said task types enter into this, this is a fixed unit task. So, or a fixed work task will always move the task to where the resource is available. The one that I want you to see is I'm going to take this task and I'm going to kill off my resources. I think what I want to do is go back and extend Kathy's vacation. I'm going to extend her out, let's say through this week as well. All right? I can just actually do this. She's on vacation. Nope, I need one more week. Through the 15th. She's taking a good vacation here. All right, so this one got pushed out. This isn't, that'll work. I'm going to pull Kathy off that one. Okay. I'm really messing up this. Hold on, let's put Kathy back on. Okay. This task, jeez. Oh, I see what's happening. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to put Mike on vacation that week. That's where my problem is. Okay, so this week he's gone. Okay. So watch what happens now if I make this a fixed duration task and I assign Mike to it. Mike is actually assigned to 0 hours of work, but the task didn't move till where Mike could go ahead and do the work like it did with a fixed unit task. So if I am juggling a lot of these people who are taking vacations at different times, the first thing I want to do is make sure that I'm doing the assignments on either fixed unit or fixed work tasks, because you will not be seeing the effect of the vacation time happening on fixed duration tasks. I'm going to interpret the question as how can I actually view all these. You can't view everybody's vacation on one screen, but what you can do is come over here, and I'm going to go to non-working time, and I can say on this view I would actually like to see Mike's time off. Do you see how that is actually shaded? Or I could come in here and say, well, show me what Kathy's schedule looks like. And now I can see Kathy's time off. And that might help you a little bit. One more idea is to take a copy of the project schedule itself and put everybody's vacation on that one, and then you'll be able to assign that to the viewing of a Gantt chart, and you'd be able to see, is there any time anybody's all here? But that's about all you're going to be able to do, and there's no way to list out, show me all the dates of everybody's vacation. So, I wish there was a little bit more you could do with that. Hopefully that helped.
Okay, thanks. A couple more questions. We're almost done with them. I'm just trying to see. This one could be a little time consuming, but let's try this one. If you create a program project and link in all of the projects of interest, how can you see the resources, activities to see the conflicts?
Well, again, if you actually, let me say that if you do something like that, and it's almost impossible to see everything from all your projects in one place. The only way you can combine projects without using actually, I'm thinking the best way to do it is Project Server, but if you don't have that ability, you have to do either external resource pool, and keep in mind they are a single user read-write file, and you can't have all your project managers have their finger in it. This is all done with disk location links, as well as if I link information in one project to an information in another project. These are disk location links. If you go ahead and store the files in SharePoint, bring them down somewhere else, the links are broken. Don't bring them back down to your same location all the time. The links will be broken. I'm just saying, anything with links like that, don't expect a lot of stability out of it, and I think you have a high probability for breakage in it. So your best bet is to name all your resources the same and do that temporary combine as I was suggesting before. And use links as little as possible. You might be expecting too much of a desktop product.
Okay, thanks. Let's see. We have 2 more questions. And I think that'll be it for today. Okay, so how about calendars from other countries when working on international projects?
Actually, that's a really good question. So let's say I'm going to come back to my rule. All tasks are scheduled based on the project calendar until the resource is assigned. Then the resource calendar takes over. If we follow that rule, what I would suggest that you do, let's go to this one here, is I would go ahead and let's hypothetically, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to create a new calendar, and maybe that new calendar is called, I don't know, Asia, let's just call it that, or whatever country you've got. And I copy the standard there. Standard is just Monday through Friday. And then you change this to be the working time of that country or that location, whatever it might be. All right, then what happens is when you start looking at your resources, if Kathy is in the Asia area, I would assign the Asia calendar to Kathy. And that way her work would be based on Asia. So let me just show you something really quick. I think this maybe could be a good thing here. So I'm going to go back to resource usage for just a minute. Let's say I've got Bob over here, and let me bring this in. Actually, I'm kind of sorry. I'm going to pick on Mike, and I will zero in on this in a little bit, but he's got a nicer schedule. That's why I'm doing that. All right. So Mike, this is his regular working time. If I bring this into hours, you can actually see that Mike works 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. All right. The shaded is what the project is telling us. Or if you really want to get down to it, it is what, wrong one. It is what I've requested to be displayed. So I could display Asia if I wanted to, or I could display anything else. Now, I'm going to come back over to Mike here, and I'm going to say that Mike actually works the night shift. Okay? Now, any task that's fixed units or fixed work will adjust based that Mike is assigned to. So I'm going to go back into that resource usage. Let's take a look at what's going on with Mike now. I will come back over here, and I can see Mike starts at 11 o'clock at night and works till 7 in the morning. So it is the calendar connected to the resource. And that task is still occurring, but it's occurring within Mike's working time frame. So, what are the steps? Go to change working time. Create a calendar for whatever location that you have. Then go to the resource and assign that calendar to the resource. As you assign them to the tasks, use fixed unit or fixed work tasks, and the tasks will actually move to when the resource has the availability to work. Okay?
All right, thanks. And last question over here. How do you enable the box with cross and check that is displayed below Ellen's custom ribbon?
Can you ask that again?
Yeah. How do you enable the box, in parentheses, with a cross and check that is displayed?
Cross and check. Oh, okay, got it. Sorry. Okay. What this is, all right, I'll tell you what the problem is. This box with the cross and check is clear group, all right? So what's happening is you have to go ahead and have a group applied, whether it be by the auto filter, like weeks here, or I've got a group applied like critical versus non-critical, and that's the group. Then it is activated, and I can click it, and it will function.
Perfect.
So whoever asked that, they just don't have a group applied at the time.
All right. Well, I think we answered all the questions.
Let me put this up one more time.
Sure thing.
And Dan, if you don't mind, I just want to say, write us. We'll send you the ribbon bar. We'll send you the instructions how to install it, and we'll send you the keystrokes for the presentation part of this webinar. I just want to say thank you for listening, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help you. Don't hesitate to reach out.